Halloween is coming, and I am ready for it, believe me. Even though I pretty much exclusively do horror content anyway, there's no reason a Halloween special shouldn't be extra Halloweeny. Of course you might be saying, DMuted, you already did your Halloween special on Thomas. To which I say, that was mostly a joke episode. It wasn't originally meant to be a Halloween special, but with work, college, getting my driver's license, and other important things going on in my life, I expected it to be done much later. But since I was caught up on everything at the moment, I just kinda made the video. So that was cool, hope you liked it, and if you haven't seen it, watch it right now. I'm not asking, I'm demanding. So what's this episode going to be about? Ghosts, of course. Well, in a manner of speaking, when one individual, or a team of individuals, come together and create a fan game, it's incredible. These are massive projects that take months, sometimes years to come out, and when they do, and they're as incredible as they were hyped up to be, it feels like the fans are winning. But not every fan game sees the light of day. It's a tale as old as time. An amateur game developer says they're working on a big project, a full video game that you can play on your stupid screen machine. But ultimately, whether it be due to their own lives, their inexperience, or simple lack of interest, these games get cancelled, and it hurts. I said before that silent cancellations sting the most, and I meant it. When a game gets announced to be cancelled, it blows, yeah, but at least you aren't left waiting in doubt. So today, I'm going to be talking about some of the biggest cancellations to ever happen in the fan game scene. I should mention that the main FNaF series doesn't really ever have cancelled games, otherwise I'd be talking about why FNaF 5 Bonnie's Vasectomy didn't come out. For fan games, getting cancelled is like when the gray aliens landed on the White House lawn. It just kinda happens and we don't really talk about it after. But here I am, exhuming some corpses, so let's see what these ghosts are on about. Yeah, Chompers is the first one we're going to look at, partially because it's one of the most recent fan games to get the axe in a very memorable way. When the pair was first revealed, Chompers' lead director Ultranite was put on the chopping block. He was kind of the head of the pair and in a monumental move dragged the entire ship down with him. The pair, for those who don't know, was a group of fan game developers who were able to steal info from other devs to be leaked on 4chan, and even pictures of Scott Cawthon's wedding. They had info on a ton of games, including POPGOES Evergreen. Chompers was cancelled after the director himself was cancelled. From what we've seen, Chompers would have been a 3D free roam game that took you through various parts of the Chompers restaurant before ending in a battle between this amalgamation of animatronics and William Afton. There is a playable tech demo, but this was mostly to show off how the game played and felt, not how a usual level would be built. Overall, this game being cancelled saw a ton of artists, programmers, modelers, and animators out of work. I'll be providing links to any of the materials I find related to this game, but it's kinda hard to do that when it's spread out among so many team members. By far, the most tragic part of this cancellation is that it was apparently being considered for the fanverse, with that tech demo being a sort of playable pitch that would prove the Chompers team could handle it. Overall, Chompers was cancelled due to leaks. Just, not of Chompers, more like leaks of a ton of other games. POPGOES as a series is one of the most popular fan games out there, and its remake, POPGOES Evergreen, is a part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative, meaning it'll hold the FNaF license and have merchandise in a Steam release. The original sequel to POPGOES, however, is kinda very dead. POPGOES 2 The Dead Force was the original sequel to the 2016 POPGOES, but was ultimately canned. As someone who loves POPGOES, this is actually really sad to read up on, which is why I'm glad the game is kinda being revived in a way. More on that in a bit. The game is a follow-up to the original, taking place after the character Simon takes over the restaurant after the death of Fritz Glade. The player is up against 3 different kinds of animatronics, those being the Epitomes, the Heartless, and the Cameos. Out of these, the Epitomes are definitely my favorite, being reconstructions of the main POPGOES cast with bodies that resemble the robot Simon, made in his image. I know some people think the more over-the-top a design is, the worse it is, but honestly, it really works here. This game was really promising for some people, and if you think you'd be interested in seeing it in a finished state, you should check out POPGOES Reprinted, which is aiming to be a remake of that cancelled project. It's not developed by Kane Carter, and isn't considered a part of the main POPGOES canon, but I think this will still be all the rage for POPGOES fans when it comes out. It's also worth checking out POPGOES archives, which actually holds a lot of the cancelled POPGOES projects. These include games, comics, and all sorts of pieces of that original story that for one reason or another just never saw the light of day. Also worth noting is that ultimately, the name Dead Force would eventually be utilized in an official POPGOES game, as it's the name of POPGOES Arcade's first campaign. So in a way, it kinda came out. It's like killing a guy but then you name your firstborn after him. Did he even really die? My lawyer tells me I should move on from this line of questioning, so let's talk about something else. We don't talk about Jonachrome. Yes, I figure I should mention it before I continue talking about FLUMPTY'S because it's pretty unavoidable, but yes, this game was developed by a criminal. While I don't know for certain what specific laws Jonachrome broke, if any, he was caught while having an ongoing relationship with a minor, and has since left the FNaF community. With that out of the way, let's talk about The Egg. One Night at FLUMPTY'S was a series developed by Jonachrome, with 1 Week at FLUMPTY'S being planned as the third installment to the series. While we did eventually get One Night at FLUMPTY'S 3, 1 Week was ultimately canned. While Jonachrome had finished the art for the game, as well as programmed in Birthday Boy Blam, the rest of the game was left incomplete. Although Jonachrome had released teasers and even the code for the game, the project was becoming too big for him to finish. Ultimately, he did hint at some ideas he was saving for a later game, and if I had to guess, it would probably be hard-boiled mode in One Night 3. I should mention that similar to POPGOES 2, this game also has a fan remake in the works, so check that out if you'd like as well. If anything, it's actually really cool to see the FLUMPTY'S cast kinda be adopted by fans of the games, but the original 1 Week at FLUMPTY'S, dead as they come. This one was probably the biggest fan game cancellation from the last year. Aftonbuilt was an ambitious investigation and trapping game created by Jelly Liam, the developer of the Final Night series. It was centered around rebuilding William Afton using parts and remnant collected by a slew of new animatronics. Aftonbuilt was being set up as part of a new wave of Fazbear Fanverse titles. However, due to things falling through and Scott Cawthon pulling out of his deal with Jelly Liam, Aftonbuilt was lost. What is available to play now is fun, but there's not a lot of content. It's a shame that this game was never finished, but I really can see why. There wasn't exactly a guarantee that this game was going to appeal to the main FNaF audience, and while I do think it probably would have, I could just as easily see myself being proven wrong. Of course, some of the more vain people who supported Aftonbuilt probably think Aftonbuilt was rejected because unlike all of the other Fanverse titles, it wasn't a point and click. The joy of creation. But I think this just comes down to Scott not being the best at business. I mean, are we surprised? The man kept releasing demos with 50 to 60% of the game unlocked from the start, and everyone thought that was normal. In the end, Aftonbuilt was involved in a ton of drama, partially because Jelly Liam broke his NDA after being persuaded by YouTuber Theft King. I try not to talk about drama much on this channel, but this developed into its own thing pretty much. Liam pretty much wanted to explain that working with Scott Cawthon was a nightmare for him, with the number one thing people pulled from this video being that Scott apparently isn't that good at reading his emails. I mean, neither am I, but I don't really think that's the worst thing ever. The way Liam talked about Scott, though, seemed to really get under people's skin. I mean, he was being unprofessional, he broke his NDA agreement, and this could have resulted in legal issues for everyone involved. It's just very odd how most of the hype surrounding Aftonbuilt had less to do with the game itself and more with the notoriety it had for everything that happened behind the scenes. It's a case where the ghost is more popular than the person who died. The following is going to be a list of fan games I found whose stories weren't as interesting to me, but are still worth mentioning. Those Nights at Rachel's 2 was a fan game that was going to be made by Nixon, who also developed The Joy of Creation. As a sequel to his take on the classic FNaF formula, the game was going to tell the story of what happened following the events of the first game. However, Nixon had cancelled the project. We did eventually get a joke release of the game, which is a first-person shooter where you shoot T-posing animatronics with a handgun. By the way, this game is canon to the main story. Porkchop's horror show is a weird one to mention, but it was in development by FLUMPTY'S, but he halted production on it in the past, uncancelled it, and then presumably cancelled it again to work on FNaF Plus. Although FLUMPTY'S has stated he wants to work on Porkchops in the future, I don't believe we've seen or heard anything about the game in a long while. The last post on the Game Jolt page is from 3 years ago, when the game was initially uncancelled. I guess this one's less cancelled and more MIA. Sinister Turmoil is a free roam game with a playable demo where you run from Mangle in the sewers. Guess what never came out? If you guessed Lockjaws, you probably weren't paying attention and you have a very active imagination. Lockjaws was going to be the next installment in the Return to Freddy series, a series well known for its shady development and overall low quality everything. This one was going to be all of that and more, as the developer, Tyler Ahlstrom, was basing part of the theme off of the sexual frustration he was going through after his breakup with his girlfriend. I am not lying. Please, look this up. Needless to say, it's dead so. Five Nights at Treasure Island did eventually come out, but not in the way it was originally intended. The initial Treasure Island demo contained only 3 nights, but the remainder of the game could actually be accessed through cheats. However, this demo was the last we saw of the first Treasure Island game. The remake done by Radiance, while sharing many of the same gimmicks and designs, is ultimately just a different game entirely, and while it's probably better, it's more of a successor, at least in my opinion. Wow, this graveyard is filled with corpses. Anyway, that's about as many dead games as I feel like digging up for now. Maybe I'll talk about them some more next Halloween. Ha! I'm DMuted, thank you all for watching, and be sure to have a happy Halloween. Peace.